What is up, everyone? If you're new to the channel, my name's Rob. This is my 87 S10 that I'm putting a turbo 5.3 in, and you're watching SPPTV. So today I'm going to continue on the pretty much on this fender here. I got the inner fender on the last video pretty much all roughed out. I also got the cover for the heater goes. I'm going to run an aftermarket heater or out of a different vehicle that mounts on the inside of the truck so that there's no heater box on the outside. It'll look smoother and better for clearance around my exhaust and everything, the engine and all that. I also extended this inner fender. It used to kind of end there where the heater box was, so I fixed all this up. And I kind of did the same on the other side. It used to be cut open for the power brake booster, but I switched to a different size power brake booster, so I was able to close all that in, so that'll make it look a lot cleaner. What I'm going to start on today, actually, I'm pretty much getting to the point where I'm almost done with all this metal fab work, and then I'm going to have to do like body work on those inner fenders and all that kind of stuff and paint everything to be able to put it on. But one thing I want to fix while I have it apart is this front fender is an aftermarket front fender, and as you can see, the body line here is off by a whole bunch, and it looks really crappy when the truck's all together. But basically there's nothing I can do about it, like adjusting it. Like there is no spacers in here. This is bolted right here. So what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to cut this off, this mount right here, and I'm going to lower the fender down a little bit, and then I'm going to re-weld it. So I'll have to cut it to about here where this is, lower it, and then re-weld it all back together. I mean, it's not going to be much because as you can see, it's only a little bit, but it's enough that it just doesn't look right. And if you go to the other side, now both these fenders are aftermarket fenders, and this one, the body line's good. So I don't know if it's just a slight variation in the body of the truck, or it's the inner fender or the fenders because they're aftermarket cheaper ones, if that's why. But that's what I'm going to do. Start with, I'm going to pull the fender off and put it up on the dolly thing here, on this thing, and I'm going to cut it, and then I'll refit it, and then I'll just weld it up. And then after I'm done that, I'm going to start breaking everything down, and I'm going to start figuring out how to make motor mounts for it, because right now I put the engine in where I wanted and I leveled it out and everything, and it's sitting in there all level, but I never made the motor mounts for it yet. So I'm going to start on that today too, hopefully get those done. And then once the mounts are done, then pretty much it's ready to pull the engine out of there, pull the front end off, and then I have to do grind the paint off around this heater box cover, and then I'm going to weld that all in. And there's some holes in the firewall that I want to weld up, like this one right here and this one right here. I want to weld all those up. I'm also planning on moving the fuse box. Right now, the fuse box is pretty much behind this, inside the wheel well. Oh, you could probably see. It's right there, right here. So then, since I built the truck, the wiring was kind of like in the wheel well, which I never really had a huge problem with it, but I'm thinking about moving it somewhere so that it's not exposed to the elements, water, and you know, when it rains and stuff, and dirt and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm at. It's getting to where I'm gonna almost be at the point of just, you know, body working the inner fenders and then painting the engine and all that kind of stuff, and start reassembling it soon, I hope. My camshaft is coming, so once the engine's out, I'll pull it apart. I gotta pull the pistons out and open up the ring gaps, throw in the camshaft. I'm going to order valve springs right away, put valve springs in it, and get the engine all back together. And we're also going to cut the oil pan. I'm going to use the stock truck pan. I don't know if you can really see. Oh, there, you should be able to see it. It hangs down a good 2 inches, I would say, past the cross member. And because this truck has air ride, it actually lays right on the ground, and the cross member will pretty much lay right on the ground. So Clayton works at a machine shop. They have all kinds of fancy machines and stuff. So he's going to take the oil pan there, and he's going to cut it, and he's going to show you guys the process of how he cuts it basically into 3 pieces, and then I'll be able to weld the bottom back on the top of the pan to make it 1 piece again. So that should be pretty cool. So stay tuned, and let's get on it. All right, so I have it marked out here. I'm basically going to cut this piece out here. Like I'm going to have to raise it up a bit. So what I'll do is I'll cut this out, I'll clean it all up, get the paint off, I'll put it back on the truck, line the fender up properly, and then I'll tack weld it in place, and then I'll come back, take it off, and re-weld it. Okay, so now you see the piece. This is the piece that bolts onto the body. So I'm just gonna have to move the fender a little bit, mark it, or like once I get it lined up, just tack weld it back on, and then hopefully it'll line up perfect, and it'll be pretty simple. All right, so now I have it back on. Here's the bracket, here's the fender. So now I have to like line it up so the gap is good. It's going to be kind of a little bit of a pain because now I have to hold it in place and then I have to tack it. I have to make sure it stays where I want it to be. See, now it's actually a little low. Just wondering if I should cut it again or if I should just leave it and let it and then be able to put a washer in here. I think I'll cut it off again and move it up a bit. It's kind of a trial and error kind of thing. Alright. Compared to how it was before, there you go. Now the body line is pretty much perfect. And, oh, and my finger's in there. Here, how about that? So now the body line is pretty much perfect. And I could always, I mean, I think it's pretty good. I could, you know, if I had to space it up. Plus when it gets tight and see, it'll go, you know, up a bit. But yeah, that's definitely a lot better than it was. I'm really happy with that. And it was pretty simple, so all I'll do now, take the fender off, I'll weld it up, and it'll be done. All right, so I got the fender back on, and now you can see, now the body line is perfect. I welded it and smoothed it out. So I'll have to do a little bit of body work in there, but nothing too major. So I'm really, really happy with that. I think that looks way better. You know, the fender's not totally bolted on, so I'll have to fiddle with the bottom, get it lined up nice when I get into doing the actual body work. I just wanted to get that metalwork part done. So now that that's good, now I'm gonna yank the whole front end off and the hot side piping. Clayton checked this out. I guess after I welded this flange, it got a little warped, so it's not totally flat. So he wants to take it to work and put it on a mill or whatever and like straighten it out. So he's gonna do that too. You'll probably get to see that. He'll probably video it or whatever. Yeah, so then once I get this all apart, then I'll start looking at the engine mounts and figuring those out. I took the whole front end off. I also took off all the engine accessories because I'm pretty much done with that stuff now. Once the engine mounts are made, I am going to pull the engine out, and then I'm gonna work on welding this onto the firewall, this part, and filling all the holes. Because I'm going to get rid of the heater or put it inside, this hole right here is where I'm going to have my engine harness go through into the interior where the computer will be mounted. I also want to weld up this hole and this hole. So as far as the motor mounts go, I have the original mounts. These are the two 8 mounts that it had before with the other engine, and then it had adapter mounts, which is basically what I'm going to make, is some adapter mounts for it. I have the original mounts from the LS. On the shit horse and on the Sonic Stang, we took these mounts, cut this bottom part off and the rubber, and then just used this top part and added to it to mount it to the other side that bolts to the frame. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to cut this apart first, see if this will fit in there, and if I can just make some tabs coming off it to join them. If not, then I'll make some from scratch. I have a big piece of steel here that I got to make them with. So yeah, I'm going to cut that apart, and then I'll come back and I'll show you if it fits or not. Okay, so I took that engine mount and I cut it up so that I just have this part now, which is basically what we had with the shit horse and with the Sonic Stang. So trying to fit it in there, obviously it doesn't fit with these mounts. If I got rid of these mounts, I could put it, you know, it would fit no problem like this, or I could also turn it upside down. And really, if you wanted to make like a solid mounting system, no problem, right? Like put that in there, and then just, you could make some solid mount pads that come off of the frame and bolt it together, no problem. But I don't really want to do that. I still want to have an engine mount. So I'm going to ditch these, and I'm just going to start from scratch with this piece of steel that I got. I'm just going to cut out some flat plates, and then I'll cut out some little triangular pieces and weld them together, and I'll just make my own. I cut out 2 of these like this. I drilled holes. I used the original mount as my template, and then I have this one bolted on there. I just have to now join this to here, so I have to make some like triangular shaped tabs that'll go there on each side, and of course on the other side. Weld them up and they'll be good to go. So that should work out pretty good. But I'm gonna go in the house now because it's getting late. I'm gonna be up early. But I'll continue this video tomorrow, and we'll get these mounts finished up. So it is the next day. I'm back out here again. I marked out the tabs, which I made out of cardboard, and I tested them on there. So then I made them, I traced them onto the metal, and then here you can see I cut 2 of them out. All I'm using is just a cut-off wheel. Just carefully cut along here, and then cut these edges and cut here until you come up with these. Then I'll take a flap wheel, I'll smooth them off, make them all match, and then I'll figure out where the hole has to be, and I'll drill the hole in them, and then we'll have to test fit them and weld them on. Cut all 4 of them. I clamped them together, I put them in the vise, and then I used a flap wheel to smooth them out to get them so they were all approximately the same size. And then I also drilled a hole through all 4 at the same time while it was still in this vise grip. And so now they're basically ready to fit over there, and then tack them and then weld them on. So this is the driver's side one. So basically, I'm gonna have to put a little spacer in here because otherwise it wouldn't clear the bolts properly, but that's no big deal. So here, I'll show you the one that I already welded this one up. So that one's all welded. So yeah, pretty simple. I'll have to weld up the other one, and then I'll throw them back in and test fit them, and then hopefully they're gonna be good. And then I can actually pull the engine out and start doing the firewall and all the other stuff that I have to do. All right, so I got both mounts all welded up. Once they cool off, I'll stick them in, and hopefully they still fit. So here's both of them together. I think they turned out pretty nice. And those will bolt right to the stock 2 8 mounts. Like I said, all I really have to do there is I'll have to make a slight spacer that'll go in there. I mean, I could have maybe moved the mounts, moved the 2.8 mounts from where they are, but right now they're actually in the stock location where they would have been when this thing had a 2.8 in it. So it's pretty cool that they pretty much line right up. So that makes it pretty easy, and it's got the engine exactly where I want it, and it should be good. I'm just gonna let them cool off, and then I'll throw them back on. What's that? All right. So I got the mounts put in. Here they are. It's I took the wood out from under the oil pan, so now it's sitting on the mounts.
Nice mounts, Rob.
So like I think I said before, I got to make a little spacer to go in there. That's no big deal because it's offset, so the bolt's clear. And then here's the other side. Pretty much looks like the other side.
Get there.
Right on. Make for some good content for you subscribers.
Speaking of content, I hear we're going to the machine shop next. Where's that oil pan at?
That wasn't
Yeah.
planned at all.
Where'd it go?
It's right there.
Oh.
Tell them what you're doing.
Wow.
What you're gonna do. This is the oil pan from the shit horse.
I'm gonna do 3, I think, in total.
Right.
One for Rob. One for the shit horse, because as you can tell, it's the lowest part of the front end of the shit horse.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure they can hear me.
was rubbing a little bit
Oh,
there.
no. We're gonna put it on the wire EDM machine. We're gonna take 1.5 inches. Basically, we're gonna take this section out of the pan. We're gonna come back here. Rob's gonna take it up.
And what are you using to cut it?
The wire EDM machine.
And what does that do?
It's electronic discharge machine is what it stands for, and it's basically it uses a brass wire. In our case, we use a 10,000 stick brass wire, and you cut anything that conducts electricity: graphite, steel, aluminum.
So it just cuts through it with this wire.
Yeah.
Cool.
Basically, it erodes it away with little, if you will, lightning bolts. It's a very slow process. In this case, to do 2 cuts on this pan, I bet you it's going to take all of an hour to do 2 cuts, half hour each cut.
Wow.
But that's okay.
And it'll be laser straight.
Oh yeah, and then like I say, you know, sort of, you know, it kind of takes the sloppy out of it, but to be able to just slap the 2 halves together and everything's flat, you don't have to worry about gaps.
And you need it for taking it anyways. It has to be tight. Cool.
So that's an easy setup, and then what else? We're going to use the same machine on Rob's T4 flange. I guess when he was putting some heat to it with the welds, it got slightly warped. Who knows? It even may have fucking come warped.
It's sure possible.
But there's some warp there, so we're gonna just take a skim cut until it cleans up, make it nice and flat for the
ceiling
gasket and the turbo, and won't ever have to worry about that. So I don't know, some fresh content.
Cool. And you're gonna film that, or?
Yeah, I'll take some clips.
Action clips. It's gonna be quite the adventure day.
Action Jackson.
Clayton adventure. You guys never really had an adventure with Clayton on your own, with him with the camera.
No,
So,
I'm more of a follower than a leader, but
yeah, get ready for some Clayton produced content.
bring your YouTube channel to work day.
Cool. So that's awesome. So yeah, now we're gonna pull the engine out of my truck and get the oil pan off for Clayton and get ready to start doing some stuff. My cam is supposed to be here maybe tomorrow, so we'll be able to put the cam in soon. And then I still got to order the valve springs, but I also got to pull the pistons out to open up the rings. So we're gonna get
Are we
on
gonna
that
measure
soon.
those skirts, make sure those pistons are good?
Nah, they're good.
Huh?
They're good.
I'll get the mic out.
No, we're good. We're gonna leave them.
See, we'll just check 1,
It's all good.
2.
No, we're gonna
Check
leave
one
them.
side.
Nope.
No need for that level of preciseness.
I don't want to be
It's
that.
gotta come apart anyway, so just take a measurement.
You can take a measurement, but I'm not gonna do anything with
What
it.
if the measurement's not good?
I don't care. Still put it in there.